What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news, updates, and info to talk about. So we're going to round up some stuff that we may have missed over the past few weeks. Of course, with us having so many new bits of content in the game. Today let's touch on some of the updates that Bungie have teased about looking further into the future, like the possibility of gilded titles, a new progression system for seals, as well as a couple of details about more complex subclass trees for Stasis and Beyond Light, and future adjustments that Bungie are working on for character customization and more. We also have a small update on the potential timeline for upcoming exotics, additional quest details for Season 11, with a few other changes and news bits to round up in the video. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, a rating below really helps me out, but now, let's get into it. A couple of really interesting things to look at for the future of Destiny 2. Of course, we had a lot of conversation with the reveal of Beyond Light and the arrival of Season 11, but actually Bungie are working on some pretty cool progression things that we'll see further down the road. Big shout out to Shackle Shotgun and DestinyRoundup.com for rounding up some of the Beyond Light interview questions here. I'll link their website down below. One of the concepts that Bungie had spoken about recently is having title seals actually have different levels to them. So Luke Smith said that they're going to be doing something like this starting soon, and gilding titles is a thing that Bungie are working on and planning to do, which is in reference to them having kind of a level system. So if you imagine similar to a rarity system, but for titles, if you could have a green, then blue, then purple, and ultimately exotic title, as opposed to simply unlocking the title once you've done all of the requirements, it would be more of a kind of a laddered system. That's just an example of what they're talking about right there, but it's something that they're going to be doing in the game very soon, quite possibly in September, based on what Luke Smith had said. But also, he confirmed that they're going to be re-itemizing things like the Grandmaster Nightfalls, so he added that sometimes we're not totally sure how a thing is going to go. But right now we're thinking about the reward story for Grandmaster Nightfalls and believe that we can enhance that pretty soon. So when they talk about itemization, really they're talking about the reward pool and the potential benefits of that whole playlist, right? So obviously changes for the title system as well as the reward system for Grandmaster Nightfalls are both on the table for Year 4. But also in the interview with Luke Smith and Dr. Lupo, they spoke about the upcoming Stasis abilities, and Luke Smith said these subclasses will be different to how the current ones are selected, and are not going to be locked diamonds, but will be a brand new model that allows for much more player choice and flexibility than the current Arc, Solar, and Void subclasses have. And Luke Smith said that they're going to see how this goes, and there is the potential that they'll add more customization options into current subclasses at some point in the future. So with Stasis initially, instead of it being completely locked to specific subclass trees on the element, they're saying there's going to be a lot more mixing and matching, somewhat similar to what we had with the Destiny 1 subclass trees, but of course we're probably going to see that in a completely new interface. Could even be something similar where you pick perks like what we do with an artifact, but it is at least positive that those upcoming ability trees are going to have some customization there. And then another thing that Luke Smith spoke about specifically is that Bungie are in the process of looking at character customization, including face customization in the game. And what he said specifically is that they're in the process of redoing the face pipeline. There was actually a question about adding beards to characters and things like that, but considering Luke Smith said that these kind of customizations are things that they're actively working on, it's possible they'll add more details and possibilities, as well as the option to edit existing characters and things like that. And so give us your thoughts about that, guys. The possibility of getting gilded titles, and them having kind of a level up process where there are different rarities and qualities to the title specifically, as well as those updates about the potential for character customization, and mixing perks up on stasis trees. But now, let's talk a little bit about some content this season, and considering we've had the Ruinous Effigy, we know that Traveler's Chosen is another exotic we'll be acquiring this season via a quest, and that quest is going to be one of the main kind of remaining beats of the season. But JP Deathblade tweeted and said based on the Eververse ornament data, the release date for Traveler's Chosen has been pushed back from August 4th to September 8th. And so the ornament for the weapon was originally appearing in the schedule for Eververse for very early in August, but now that's actually listed for early on in September instead. And so it's possible that the quest has been kind of rejigged or moved around. Maybe we'll get the reward a little bit later. Although it's also possible that Bungie have simply shifted the ornament back a little bit. It really depends because the evacuation quest required in order to pick up that weapon is going to be a very lengthy quest. So with us having completed the legendary preparation part of that quest this week, we can expect a similar start for the exotic version, initially with a summons from Zavala. And spoiler alert, but we can see from the text dialogue, as of now, our plan changes from preparation to evacuation. And it makes note of a distress signal from Sloan on Titan, as well as leading us to go and encourage Asher to begin evacuating Io. And on the subject of that quest and the kind of cinematic story element there, Relic Terra on Reddit did share something pretty cool. But another spoiler alert right here. they found alongside the season voice lines that the sounds of evacuation sirens seem to be present as well. And so there are a series of sounds there that appear to be ready for when things start to kick off on these various destinations. We could just imagine the kind of atmosphere around that if you're on Titan listening to those sirens going off. Obviously, it's going to be pretty cool. So I'll link that thread down below if you want to check them out. And alongside this, Bungie have updated the evacuation quest, so it also now has those pretty cool icons for each of the destinations. But be ready for this to be a pretty lengthy quest. For Asher, we've got to collect traces of corruption by defeating Taken, complete the Sanctum of Bones Lost sector, and collect a sample from the Taken Phalanx boss, and then complete the Pyramidion Strike, and collect scan traces by defeating Vex on Io. But then finally, we'll need to complete the Unexpected Guest's heroic adventure before reporting back to Asher. And so that's just going to be one of the locations. We've got pretty similar requirements for Titan, opening chests protected by Hive Ultras in the Solarium and festering halls to claim Golden Age tech on Titan. So there are going to be some new enemies hidden in that area of Titan, and then it also requires the completion of Savathun Song while collecting tech fragments from Ogres, Wizards, and Knights before returning to Sloan. And then we've pretty much got a similar story for Mercury, as well as Mars, but of course the Mars side of things is linked to that pretty big story piece with Rasputin. And currently a lot of players are still pointing out that we have a hidden waypoint showing in Minelab Rasputin at the moment. And I guess because a lot of people are heading up there collecting Eyes of Savathun and things like that, even more folks are seeing it, but the objective is indeed linked to the exotic evacuation quest. We can see from the Signs of Life step that we've got to investigate Minelab Rasputin for a signal coming from Rasputin, and then go ahead and collect pieces of Rasputin's frame. And of course, Anna speaks of saving Rasputin as Mars is essentially destroyed by the pyramids or taken over, but Anna has saved him in the form of an exo frame, and this means there is a pretty interesting potential link to Beyond Light. So of course we're getting the Deepstone Crypt in Beyond Light, and from trailers, it appears to be themed very similarly to some Vicarious Visions concept art for Warmind. And so we can see Clovis Bray and the Deepstone Crypt palette right there, the same as in the trailer. And Vicarious Visions initially did some concepts for the Deepstone Crypt, as well as concepts for Rasputin robots, experimental frames, and exos which Bungie have drawn on for Warmind, Season of the Worthy, and clearly some of the ideas for the Deepstone Crypt in Beyond Light. So Rasputin's future and Deepstone Crypt, or the tech within, could indeed be linked in one way or another, as well as the fact that we've got Anna Bray and the Stranger in the game at the same time. Obviously these things are going to be fairly significant to the story. And of course the other very interesting story element, for you guys who perhaps don't know about it already, would be Aramis, the main kind of new enemy for Beyond Light. An old member of the House of Devils, and one that was actually captured in the Prison of Elders, and was known to have escaped when the Scorn went wild, and Cade died in Forsaken. And then of course an associate of Aramis was the captain who broke into the old tower in the 0 Hour mission, and with the help of Mithrax we were able to defeat them. But of course based on what we're seeing, Aramis is now on Europa. And this is where we also heard a little bit about Varix, because in one of the pre-order ghost shells for Beyond Light, it referenced Varix having been spotted with this group of Fallen that includes Aramis and various other Fallen high-value targets, and there was a question of whether Varix was a prisoner being held by the group or an actual kind of member of the group. And so that in itself is going to be really interesting, and it's cool that Bungie have been teasing us with associated characters for quite some time. But for a final couple of updates right here, there was an interesting question about various armament mods that you can get from raids, so of course Fallen, Hive, and Taken armaments and their potential relevance to the upcoming raid in Beyond Light. And so Glad as well as Frostbolt pointed out that players would like to know if those mods could be used in the Day 1 race. And there is essentially a desire from the community to have that stuff kind of disabled, which I think probably is the fair way to do it for the Day 1 run for the raid. But Cosmo said that they're currently looking into it. Of course, we don't know if these mods will indeed affect that raid, but it seems pretty likely they could at some point. So it's something that's on Bungie's radar, and it seems that they'll be looking at some balanced stuff associated with Day 1. Something to add on the subject of farmable raids at the moment, there were questions about exotic catalysts, so things like the Legend of Acreus catalyst, and of course we have Telesto and others that you can get from some of the prestige raid layers. And Tom Farnsworth from Bungie did confirm that at the moment, these currently aren't farmable like the rest of the loot, but Bungie are looking into options on whether they can try and update that during the time that these raids are still going to be available in the current format. So just something to bear in mind if you are hunting any of the catalysts specifically, their drop rates and lockouts are completely normal at the moment, but I'll keep you posted if Bungie changes that. Also, players have been asking once again for more details about Transmog, and a good question is whether we should be hoarding armor for Transmog right now. Of course, depending on the parameters of that system, we could be able to move stats around and all kinds of things. And as I mentioned before, that could include stats from gear that it's already been sunset, or that's going to be sunset later on in year 4. But Cosmo said, we know this is a big question in the community, Transmog is in early development, and as soon as we can share some info, we will. So once again, we are going to have to wait. Although I would say, if you've got good rolls of armor for the moment, definitely try to hold on to any stuff that you can. Although I appreciate with vault space as we have it, if you're an absolute god roll collector, it can be pretty difficult. Cosmo also said that they've passed around feedback about potentially separating ghost perks from the ghost shells themselves and essentially having a kind of mod system for ghosts. So if a ghost was in the Eververse store or dropping through gameplay, they would come without bonuses. And I definitely think that's an interesting idea, but we'll have to wait and see if it's something that Bungie are looking into. Guys, I would anticipate we're going to start getting more information about Beyond Light probably in a few weeks' time. Of course, Bungie have said they'll be taking part of Summer Game Fest, and there are more events to be announced there. But as always through the summer, Bungie will have quite a few things to talk about, so we'll see what we get. And if you want to keep posted on the news and the guides and all that good stuff, then be sure to stay tuned right here on the channel. But otherwise, guys, if you have enjoyed the video, a rating below really helps me out. Let us know any of your thoughts on what we've spoken about in this one, and you can also turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on any content. But otherwise, whatever you get up to, thanks for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.